Passion.
Value them both will reopen that door.
Emotion.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are on the wrong side of history today.
Conviction. All reasons next week's abortion amendment vote is getting so much attention, both locally and nationally.
The stakes are high in Kansas, both sides of the issue investing millions of dollars to influence your vote. Yes or no? It sounds clear-cut, but the line can be blurred. Mixed messages and confusion cloud some voters' vision.
Tonight, Kake News is on your side, working to answer common questions. What does a yes or no vote mean? What does it actually change? And what options could it present? Kake's special coverage of the amendment vote starts right now.
One thing is clear. All eyes are on Kansas, and the spotlight, the vote on the amendment that's been dubbed Value Them Both.
But there's still a lot of confusion on this issue, especially those little words yes and no, which is why we here at Kake have decided to devote this entire segment to the topic. We want to make sure everyone understands their options so you can make an informed decision.
So why all the attention on Kansas? Voters here will be the first to decide on an abortion issue since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. So to help wade through all of this, we've assembled a team of political experts. The first topic they're going to tackle, what a yes vote and a no vote actually means.
You've seen the ads and the signs just about everywhere, but what do you need to know before heading to the polls on Tuesday? Do you vote yes on the abortion amendment or no? Kansas law currently allows abortions up to 22 weeks of pregnancy. It's protected by a state Supreme Court ruling from 2019 that says the state Bill of Rights protects a woman's right to decide whether to continue a pregnancy.
If this amendment passes, then there will be explicit language in the Kansas Constitution saying nothing in the Constitution, the state Constitution, can be interpreted as providing a guarantee of abortion services.
Friends University political science professor Dr. Russell Arbin Fox says it would then be up to the state legislature to basically start over writing abortion laws.
You would no longer be able to use the state Constitution's guarantees of basic rights to protect abortion from being restricted or even outright banned.
Wichita State political science professor Dr. Neil Allen says because the Kansas legislature is predominantly Republican, if the amendment passes, that would likely mean big changes.
The amendment would reverse that and give the legislature and the governor full reign to make changes to our laws.
If voters say no to the amendment, Allen says nothing will change in Kansas in terms of abortion rights.
A no vote keeps the status quo where the state Supreme Court is protecting the right of women to access abortion services.
The first public poll of Kansas voters on the abortion amendment shows a tight race, with supporters currently leading but falling short of the 51% vote needed to pass the amendment. If the amendment passes, it would allow Kansas lawmakers to impose tighter restrictions on abortions by removing the right to an abortion from the state constitution. The 538.com poll shows 47% of the more than 1,500 voters sampled support the amendment that Republicans titled Value Them Both. 43% of those voters oppose the change. 10% remain undecided at this time.
You might be a little confused by some mixed messages you've been seeing surrounding this vote. We asked our experts to break down some of the claims that could be a bit misleading.
Dr. Russell Arbin Fox with Friends University says a victory for the no vote will not necessarily mean a free-for-all for abortion in Kansas. He says polls have shown Kansans like the current limits in place.
Any of those restrictions could be challenged. But the fact that, they haven't been challenged lends credence to the people who say, you know what, right now we actually have something that most Kansans are in agreement with.
WSU's Dr. Neil Allen says a defeat for the Value Them Both amendment also wouldn't mean taxpayers would start paying for abortions.
The Kansas state government does not currently fund abortion services. That is a policy position that would be very unpopular in the state of Kansas. There is no foreseeable situation where our legislature would create a funding source for abortion.
And Fort Hays State's Jay Steinmetz says don't expect abortion on demand anytime soon either.
There are various different regulations and restrictions regarding the medical procedure, as there are with all medical procedures from one degree or another. The regulations or the restrictions that exist here in the state of Kansas, basically a 24-hour wait period.
But what if vote yes passes? Will it necessarily mean an all-out abortion ban in Kansas? No exclusions for rape or incest? Our experts have their doubts, saying Republicans would worry about upsetting their supporters.
Some of those Republicans saying, you know what, if I go hardcore in support of a total ban, I am going to lose some of the Republican votes that I need to stay in office.
Jay Steinmetz says those concerns could make it tough to override a Governor Kelly veto of an all-out ban, assuming Kelly wins re-election.
If, however, the Kansas legislature tries to go a different track, which is, bringing out the 2015 and 2011 legislation again, restricting abortion, making its access more difficult, but effectively not outright banning it or having a lot more exceptions to it, then it becomes a possibility of Governor Kelly veto becoming less successful.
One thing in this race is certain. A lot of money has been raised by both sides in hopes of getting your vote. The leading Vote No group, Kansans for Constitutional Freedom, reports raising more than $6.5 million. Organizers say nearly 5,000 Kansans from 80 different counties have donated nearly $500,000 to the campaign against the amendment, but the majority of the money has come from out of state, with the 1630 Fund making the most significant donations of almost $1.4 million. Meanwhile, the Value Them Both Association, which is leading the Vote Yes push, is reporting raising nearly $4.7 million. More than half of that has come from just one source, the Kansas City, Kansas Catholic Diocese, which donated $2.5 million. The Wichita Diocese was the next biggest donor with more than $500,000. And the Salina Diocese, Kansas Catholic Conference, and various churches have made other six-figure donations. Stick with us. Our amendment coverage continues after the break.
From vote yes to vote no, you've been hearing a lot of claims in TV and radio ads over the last few weeks. One in particular has to do with regulating abortions. So we thought we'd take a look at which regulations are currently in place and how adding this amendment could change that.
Kansas is at risk of losing all of their abortion regulations. Kansas has over 20 abortion protections, and we can lose all of them due to this ruling.
That was why anti-abortion factions told Kansans we needed a constitutional amendment on abortion to make sure the courts don't end up overturning the current restrictions on abortions in the state. But in the year plus since the Kansas Supreme Court's ruling that the state constitution protects a woman's right to an abortion,
the only thing out of the restrictions on abortion in Kansas, which are pretty significant, that have been thrown out are a restriction on a certain very rare second semester abortion procedure and laws requiring additional safety and health regulations on abortion clinics.
the court said those overturned restrictions went beyond the medical safety regulations any other hospital or surgical center must follow.
That ruling does not touch health and safety regulations. So licensed doctors, state inspection of the facilities, the ruling doesn't touch that.
Meanwhile, a number of other restrictions remain in place, including spousal or, for minors, parental notification, mandatory waiting periods, and a ban on abortions after 22 weeks, except in certain cases, such as a medical emergency endangering the mother's life. If the amendment passes, though, our experts disagree on what that would mean for laws the courts have already overturned, specifically the two laws overturned under the state Supreme Court's ruling. If the amendment passes, do those two come back?
Presumably, yes, they would. I mean, they wouldn't come back automatically.
My understanding is that there's nothing stopping the state from immediately enforcing the laws they already had that were stayed by the courts, including the one that was the subject of the case, as well as passing additional ones.
Beyond the legal impact, this vote will likely change the nature of politics in Kansas for a long time, no matter which side prevails. When we come back, Kake's Jackson Overstreet takes a look at how.
While most people will be focused on the immediate impact of the Value Them Both vote the night of August 2nd, the results could have an impact on the general election in the fall.
That includes the governor's race between incumbent Democrat Laura Kelly and the presumptive Republican nominee Derek Schmidt. Kake's Jackson Overstreet breaks down how Value Them Both could swing the vote for one of the two.
Access to abortion may be the most heated topic nationwide in America, and that's no different in Kansas. Kansans are headed to the poll to vote on the Value Them Both amendment on August 2nd, potentially changing the state's constitutional protections of the procedure. Two people that will be watching those results incredibly close are Governor Laura Kelly and Attorney General Derek Schmidt.
Depending on if it passes or not, and depending on how much it passes by, you could see some dramatic changes in how people in the legislature and how the governor runs for re-election.
Now, so far, both candidates for governor have stayed relatively quiet on Value Them Both.
They've really effectively kind of avoided it, both sides, and they're kind of sidestepping it and just letting the voters deal with the referendum.
That might not last for long. Political experts say a close win for yes could actually help Kelly stay in office.
Governor Kelly is probably still an underdog, but standing as a defender of women's bodily autonomy and ability to make their own decisions is right now, I think, a pretty good position for Kelly to be in.
It's a double-edged sword. A yes win could also benefit Schmidt's effort to unseat her.
The anti-abortion side will want to elect Attorney General Schmidt as governor and more anti-abortion state legislators.
That's only if yes wins by a close margin. If it's a blowout,
if it passes by 65, 70%, then Kelly is probably going to say, okay, let's just leave this issue aside.
Or if no wins,
that's going to completely upset the apple cart. If it's defeated, you have had a Republican Party that has pushed for this since early 2020. And now all of a sudden, one of their major issues is I guess that went away.
That was Kake's Jackson Overstreet reporting for us tonight. Thousands of Kansas voters have already cast their ballots through advance voting.
That option remains available to you through next Monday, August 1st. Then next Tuesday, August 2nd, at most locations, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. across Kansas, although state law does allow an individual county to open as early as 6 a.m. and close as late as 8 p.m. So check with your county election office if you're not sure. And while we devoted this segment to the abortion amendment, there are several candidate races on the ballot as well. And which party you declare as a voter will impact which other races you'll see. One of the most contested races is the Republican Attorney General primary. Whether you vote early or on primary day, Kake is your source for fast and accurate election results. As soon as the first votes are reported, we'll have the numbers scrolling at the bottom of your screen. We'll have real-time updates on Kake.com. Or if social media is your go-to, we'll be there for you as well.